Oh, hey, hi, how's it going? Oh no, it's telling me my battery's running out and I just started. Oh no. Does this work? Well, it's not the best lighting, but we can make it work. That's fine. We're being cozy. We're being comfy. You could see Remy. You could hear my heater. It is what it is. I don't feel that great. It felt like crap yesterday. I woke up today feeling like crap. Still went to the workout because my instructor would have texted me and been like, get your ass over here, which is utter. She's terrifying. She is like a 5'1" terrifying woman. I wanted to try going thrifting because I haven't done that in a while, but I also don't want to spend money. I still want to go because there's gonna be, I know the thrift stores here are gonna be fucking gems. So I do want to go. Oh, and Remy's gonna eat her food now. But instead, I thought we would do like a way throwback kind of video and talk about the books that I read in 2024 and what ones do I recommend, what are some honorable mentions. I'm not gonna go with the ones that like utterly sucked, because there were some that just utterly sucked. We're just gonna look at the ones that I think are the best that I've read last year. I went through, and let me just say, I'm a slow reader. Like when I'm physically reading, I'm a slow reader. I have dyslexia. I'm gonna say that right now. And there is no way in hell, unless I was driving as much as I did, that I would have had all this done. The number of books I read in 2024 is 56 books. Now, granted, 43 of those were audiobooks. And again, I was driving so much last year. I was driving back and forth when I was moving. I was traveling a lot for my friends' bachelorette parties. And so there was a lot going on there. So I'm just keep that in mind that most of this is audiobooks because of how much I was driving. And basically that's all I do now is when I'm driving to work or driving to wherever, I'm listening to audiobooks. And I think it's great. It's calming, it's relaxing. Physically, I read 13 books. And on top of that, there were 2 books that I halfway read. And I still plan on finish reading those books this year. So that's kind of food for thought. Those books I will be reading are The September House and The Prophet's Song. I have 5 books of honorable mention that I think were really good and that if you are interested, you should take a look at. There were like things where like they just weren't quite, perfect or like, but I really liked them. This one that I have as my honorable mention is Stolen Tongues. This one I could only find on Kindle Unlimited. Remy. I don't know what's going on outside. Like does a whole section in the back of talking about Native American stories because it's basically looking at Native American folklore. It's placed in Colorado and it's about this entity that takes on and steals different people's voices to basically take you. And it was very well written. The very beginning part of it was it was so captivating. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying, especially if you believe in Native folklore, and it terrified me. And the only reason why it's not in my favorites from last year is because the ending felt very rushed. Another book that I really recommend is The Puzzle House. And this was an honorable mention because I think I really liked it because I understood like the history and was like kind of getting to where it was going with it. And then it just took a different turn at the end, and I don't think it was bad, and it makes sense with the turn that it made. I just wasn't ready for it. And the story basically takes these 6 people and puts them inside this house, and it's a puzzle, and they have to try to get through the puzzle. And so these 6 people were chosen for very specific reasons, and like the wife was in there of the puzzle maker. If you're trying to figure out a puzzle, it's great. Another honorable mention is Between Two Fires. One looks at the Black Plague and has a Christian twist to it about like if it was true what the Christians believed about the Black Plague and the like falling of like the angels and, you know, the demons coming up to rise. I thought it was very cool as just someone that really likes studying of the Black Plague and looking at the different belief systems from different religious groups. I'm not doing a great job explaining these books, and that's because I'm not feeling well, and I am so sorry for that. Another honorable mention, Chlorine. It talks about the struggles of athletes, especially athletes that are like destined from a young age to be these professional athletes, and then what do you do once it's all gone? It's looking at a swimmer, Chlorine. It's looking at a swimmer and her love for like mermaids and how she wanted to be a swimmer because of that. But it also takes this whole spin in looking at mental illness. It was a lot. You're looking at her story. Her family's immigrated over from, I believe it was China. They immigrated over, so she's a first generation American. So she's like living in between both these worlds, culture of America and learning the culture of America versus the culture that she grew up in and lives with at home, and trying to satisfy these two. But it was very well done, very good coming of age, but also looking at mental illness and the struggles that athletes have when trying to transition out of a sport. The last book I have as an honorable mention is Allow Me to Introduce Myself. This is an amazingly written book about the exploitation of children, and you're going to see a little bit of a theme of this a little bit later, but I believe it's a fiction. It's about a girl basically experience of her stepmom taking advantage of her via the internet. Stepmom was basically the nanny for her as her mom had died and the dad needed help, and then eventually the nanny and the dad get married. She starts making YouTube videos with her. She's from Nigeria as well, so they're talking about like cultural differences in that with the video, and I believe that's what basically she was being white savior. The stepmom was being a white savior at the end of the day. She ultimately was just like, I don't want to be in these videos, and got herself off. However, she feels guilty because by her getting out of the videos, her sister was born. So I have 6 favorite books from last year. I was trying to do 5. I don't care. We're getting 6. It's my video. I don't care. I have six different books that were my absolute favorite reads from last year. I'll save my favorite one for last. Number 6 on my list of best books from last year is The Midnight Library. This book was actually recommended by my students, and they said just go into it blind, which I wish I did not go into it blind because I was quite a shock as I'm, trying to drive back and can't really play with your phone to find a new book. But The Midnight Library is about a woman who tries to herself, and it takes her into this world of the library, the Midnight Library, where you could go and look back at all your life regrets and live with those changes. And if you are happy to, you could stay in that place or leave that book from that change that you made and go somewhere else. The ending of it's very well done and a good way to kind of look at all of the, like, why people might want to themselves. My next recommendation, so number 5, is going to be I'm Glad My Mother Died by Jennette McCurdy. And this, I've been in this rabbit hole since 2020 of looking at child influencers and child stars. But Jennette McCurdy and her talking about her experience with not only her mom, but the other exploitation that she lived with while being a child star on Nickelodeon was just so much. And it's really driving my want, because we've done research on child actors and their psychological well-being, and you hear it where it's like, what was it? Josh Peck made the joke to Hilary Duff, which is like, you're not like the rest of us, where it's like, because of the trauma and shit that you go through as a child actor, a lot of them become really fucked up, right? Like Drew Barrymore, she's even talked about her experience of being in clubs at 9 years old and being drunk at 9 years old and being addicted to drugs. And it's like, I wanted to be an actor when I was a child. I 100% wanted to be an actor. And I'm glad my parents didn't take me down that route, even though I really wanted to. And there's, yes, you get the fame and the fortune behind it if you're successful with it, but there's also the mental that comes out of it, and you're a child and you're working like an adult, and she did an amazing job. Coming in at number 4, this is getting tough now. I'm like looking at them, this is getting tough now. Coming in at number 4 is A Calamity of Souls. Is post-Civil War. It's basically almost a follow-up to Kill a Mockingbird, and it's post-civil rights Virginia. I believe it was Virginia is where this one takes place. Man being accused of murdering his employer, and he's a black man, and the lawyer is white and trying to save him, and there's like no evidence to actually prove, but because it is still the racist South, that people are just believing that he is the one that has done it. So they are going through and interviewing, and they talk about just racial tensions that are still in the area, even post-civil rights. And I think it was very well done in a respectful manner, because it was written more recently. And he talks about that where he's like, I will not be using the N-word completely. He does cut it where he just says N and then leaves it at that, because that is the reality, that that word was still very much being used. And the ending killed me. It killed me. Number 3 is going to be Remarkably Bright Creatures. This book is totally outside of the realm of what I would normally read. 100%. I don't know. It's not a story I would normally pick up. I go more towards psychological thriller, some kind of historical aspect maybe behind it. And a lot of people that I watch on YouTube were just explaining it and they were talking about it, and they're like, it's such a great book. And I was like, okay, I'll read it. Oh my God. I cried. The audio version's really good because you fucking fall in love with the octopus. The octopus is absolutely amazing. It takes place at an aquarium in a small town, and the octopus is just hilarious. He talks about his days of captivity in the aquarium and his love for Cleaner. And then there's this boy that comes in and starts working in the area as well. And it's just such a good good story. And number 2 is Chain Gang All-Stars. Chain Gang All-Stars is fucking fantastic. It is such a good book, and it's a dystopian. It's an American dystopian book, and it talks about basically this change in system in the United States where you could start to opt in to being part of the chain gang, which would basically mean you were battling for your life for 3 years, and after those 3 years, you get your freedom, but you have to fight for 3 years. Put it on national TV. This is like a thing that people watch, and it is just that. It's just that. Again, I don't think it's one of those books I would have picked up unless someone else mentioned it to me. And it was actually brought up by one of my coworkers, and she was like, you should read it. And I was like, okay, I'll read it. And it was so good. So good. It talks about like relationships and just experiences of individuals and why you're led to different things. And we were even talking about coming up with curriculum for it for next year, which would be so cool. Which I don't teach English. She teaches English, but I don't teach English. But I think the strongest way to do history and English is to have the teachers work together. And we're working on that. But we do teach seniors and get books together next year and work on that, because we share students. So if I'm teaching something in government and they're teaching something in English, they could intertwine the two things together, so we're not teaching both things. I thought that'd be so cool. I've done it before, and it's made for really strong conversations, and I think it would be fantastic for us to do in the future. And if you've been watching my videos for the past year, you would know that this is no surprise that this is my favorite book of 2024, which is Fantastic Land. Oh my gosh, I fucking love this book. This book is so good. It should absolutely be put into schools because it is a better representation of nature, if you will. It basically should be replacing Lord of the Flies 100%, because Lord of the Flies is like starting to become to the point where kids don't care about it and they don't have that connection to it, whereas Fantastic Land will 100% reach in and grab it for them, because it talks about what would happen if there was no footage, if there was no evidence to prove your point. And this story takes place in Florida, and it's called Fantastic Land. It's one of the biggest competitors with Disney and Universal, and it has these 5 different worlds within it, and they basically, no hurricane has ever hit this area in like 125 years or something like that. And so, but they have a plan ready called Project Rapture, and it was just in case a hurricane comes, we're going to hire all these kids to basically make sure that no one comes in and ends up looting the area. One of the biggest rules that they have is that you are absolutely not allowed to have your phones. Like, you're not allowed to bring your phones to work. Like, that is an absolute no. And so when a hurricane is bound to hit Fantastic Land, they activate Project Rapture, which brings all these mostly teenage kids, young college kids, and a couple older individuals as well to man the fort. And it talks about division, because people end up just associating with just the worlds that they worked in, and they have hate towards others. It's done interview style, and it's just, I don't want to give it away, but it is so good. What proof do you have? What proof do you got? What do you mean? What proof do you have that I killed that person? It's so good. It's so good. It should take over Lord of the Flies, 100%. It's so good. For my 2024 favorites, Again, I don't want to go into the ones that I really don't like because what's the point? Let's only read good books. Why would I recommend a bad book, right? Let's only read the good books. I know this was different than normal, but I'm not feeling great. So it is what it is. But I hope you have a great day. I hope you make good decisions. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.